Sunday morning and welcome to Inside Tennessee for our election recap. Don and Susan were here just a few hours ago and they are back. Susan Richardson-Williams is a Republican, runs her own PR firm. Don Bosch is a Democrat, runs his own law firm. Great to have you back in the saddle.
Hello, fellas, again.
Glad to be
Yes,
here.
indeed. My colleague John North along with us as well. And we're going to start with the governor's race because this was a big one, the primary race for Republicans in this state. And there you see it. Marsha Blackburn wins going away. And we want to show you how that happened. We're going to come to this big board and get the analysis from our panel. But here it is. You can see she won by 47%, with 47% of the vote. But this will tell you how she won. Look at the heat map here. And I'm going to pull Knox County off of this map and just show you all of this orange includes counties that Marsha Blackburn won. Before we get to our analysis, I'm going to listen to some sound from her after her winning acceptance speech, and then we're going to go right into the Democrat, the woman she is facing. This will be a historic race because no matter who wins, Tennessee will have a female governor for the first time. Let's listen.
Thank you, Tennessee. And absolutely, I am so honored, humbled, grateful to accept your Republican nomination for the office of Governor of the state of Tennessee.
Okay, and this is the heat map for the woman that she'll be facing. This is Jerry Green, and we're going to listen to her as well right after she won the state. Here's her acceptance.
Tonight belongs to every Tennessee Democrat who kept believing. When they said our voices don't matter, you organized. When they said Tennessee couldn't change, you showed up. And when they said it wasn't our time, you proved them wrong.
Okay, we're back, and I want to bring up the heat map, and here's where I'm going to bring in our panel. Susan, when we look at this from Marsha Blackburn, quite a performance because she knew she needed this part of Tennessee to win, and she also needed this part. This was a little bit in flux because you can see John Rose's district. You're the Republican. Explain how she did it dominantly.
Well, she did. When you look at that map, she carried Upper East, she carried Lower Middle, and then she just dominated Rural West. And anytime a Republican runs, you really, usually the first returns that come in are from Upper East, and that's almost a signal. If you're carrying Upper East pretty significantly, which she did, it's hard to overcome that because of it's such a huge Republican turnout. And she absolutely dominated Rural West. John Rose won his congressional district counties with a couple of others. But other than that, it was a Marsha night, no question about it.
Don, your read on that race, and this is how John Rose finished. These are the counties in yellow that he finished ahead of Marsha in, as well as Monty Fritz.
Right. Well, you always hope to win your home district, and certainly Rose did that. But to echo something that Susan said, Rural West has become so important, particularly in primary politics in our state. It wasn't 20 or 25 years ago that Rural West was dominated by sort of the farmer Democrat. And that really changed, and Susan will remember this. We really saw it change during the Harold Ford, Bob Corker Senate race, where Harold was really exceeding expectations coming across the state, as Susan suggested, until he got to rural West Tennessee, which used to be Democrat, and it swung 20 points Republican, and it has not come back.
John North, I want to bring you in because this is Monty Fritz, and these are the counties that he won outright. But it wasn't his wins outright. It was what he did in addition to that. Explain.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I got curious about what the Secretary of State's numbers would show. So came in second, which ain't first, but second is still fascinating. He was second in 23 Tennessee counties, including a lot here in East Tennessee. Let me rattle off a few of them: Blount, Anderson, Jefferson, Cock, Loudoun, and McMinn. So that's very interesting that he came in second in so many of those counties.
I want to move quickly to this map because this is his district now, and there was a primary to see who in the Republicans wants to replace him. We saw a hard fight here between Johnny Garrett and Van Hillary. You see the spread here. Van Hillary is Rose's chief of staff. Johnny Garrett, a lawyer backed by Donald Trump. Susan, explain this race and what we saw play out here.
That one is a shock to a lot of people. Van Hillary had been a former congressman, ran for governor, and as you said, he was John Rose's chief of staff. And I think many people thought because John did carry his own district, Van Hillary would get similar votes. Johnny Garrett spent a lot of his own money in negative advertising about Van Hillary, and it clearly was effective. I mean, there was Van ran some negative ads about Johnny Garrett too, but Johnny put more of his own money into the race, and it paid off.
I'll just go back to my usual caveat. We don't like recycled politicians in East Tennessee. Van Hillary's a recycled politician.
Anything else on the congressional side in that race, John, or should we move to Congressional District 5?
Let's move to 5.
Let's
Five
do
was a
it.
lot more fun.
Let's tee you up with this because
Five's
this
got
is
more drama to come.
Andy Ogles is the sitting congressman, and he was bounced.
He was bounced. We talked about it election night. He was a vulnerable candidate. Many could say he was a bad candidate. He had way too much baggage. I mean, there was all kinds of stuff he had that was bad. But yeah, although the president did sort of kind of give him an endorsement. Shall I read what the president said on Friday morning?
On Friday morning.
You know how the president is proud of his endorsement record. Last night was another good night for endorsements, 8-1, and the one was a person who I remained loyal to, even though he had virtually no chance of winning. Endorsed him, but had no chance of winning, and was running against a great Trump candidate and former agricultural commissioner of Tennessee named Charlie Hatcher. Good luck, Charlie. Run tough and hard. You have my complete and total endorsement, President Donald J. Trump.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry. I can't help myself on this. There was not a bigger sycophant in Congress than Andy Ogles to Trump. So I'm sure that he considers now, in hindsight, Hatcher a great Trump man. But I'll give President Trump some credit. Write that down. Maybe the only time in 8 years, 12 years, he did admit a loss, and he rarely does that.
I was kind of surprised, actually, he said that.
Me too.
Susan, we'll get this and then go to break, but how impressive is it that Marsha Blackburn did what she did without the endorsement of President Trump?
Well, she certainly intimated that she had his endorsement.
So did
with her
John Rose.
advertising. Both of them did, but Marsha ran footage, voices, all of that of President Trump. It sounded like an endorsement, and I had a lot of folks that said, well, I thought he did endorse her, right? And there wasn't an endorsement, but I think she used that very effectively.
It was a 7 out of 10 endorsement. I'll give it that.
Yeah, no, she used that effectively, and I think it played a big part in her election, certainly up in the rural East Tennessee areas.
When she was here election night, security was so tight, some people were like, do you suppose we're going to have some VIPs or well-known people? No, we didn't.
We're going to take a quick break on Inside Tennessee and then come back and break down some of the local races because voters here put people into office on Thursday night. We're back with that right after this. Back to recap the election on a Thursday night. Again, people say, why wasn't it Tuesday? Well, it's enshrined in the Tennessee Constitution dating back to the 1800s. We've got to do it on Thursday. All right, Susan, let's move to the mayor's race. And as we put up the totals here, Betsy Henderson finishing 52% to 48%. We're going to show you a map that puts this in perspective, but here are some numbers. Jacobs won in 2022, Mayor Jacobs did, 55% to Ms. Helsley, who had 44%. So we're seeing that tighten a bit. Again, these are two people, you could make the case that he was an incumbent, so he had a little bit of an edge. So what do you make of that total?
Well, I think the margin surprised a lot of people. I think I said on election night that I would be thrilled with 55% if Betsy Henderson got that much. She didn't quite make the 55. A win is a win is a win. But I think it's sending a signal to Knox County Republicans. The Democrats are expanding. They're passionate about voting. And I think in November, as a Republican Party, we better watch out.
We're going to listen to some sound from the new mayor-elect. Again, she'll be sworn in September. Let's listen, and then Don will get your thoughts.
As mayor, our team will focus on cutting waste, investing in core government services, and protecting the character of our county. And no matter what others may say, the taxpayers of Knox County pay enough taxes. We do not need a tax increase.
Smart.
That is your new mayor in Knox County, and she really said, Don, as she was campaigning, if you like Mayor Glenn Jacobs, you'll like me.
Well, I hope that's right. Jacobs, despite being a little Trumpian with his tweeting early on, or Xing, or whatever we call it now, he governed pretty moderately, worked well with India Kincannon and a largely Democratic administration and Democratic city council. County Commission, of course, was Republican. But if that's true, then we might be in for more relatively smooth sailing. But it's really some limited executive experience, and that concerns a lot of people.
Let's dissect a map, Don, that you raised, and we want to reverse course and go back to 2022 with what is a heat map. This was produced. You can find this on Wikipedia's page of this election. Again, this was the result in the Mayor Jacobs-Debbie Helsley race, but you can see the inner part of Knoxville is blue, and then as you get out, it becomes more Republican. John North, you've been looking at some precincts. Explain how this map might have shifted a little bit, and we may see a little bit more purple on it.
Well, you're definitely seeing more bluish, purplish as we move sort of west of, in West Knoxville, Bearden-ish, heading out west.
Cedar Bluff, yeah.
Cedar Bluff area. Looking at all those numbers, it definitely look like we're getting bluish, purplish over there. And then also there are some pockets, but I don't want to make a broad generalization about South Knoxville. It's been kind of coming along. We talked a little bit about it on election night, but there were definitely some geographic areas, and we can talk more about it, where the candidate for school board in South Knoxville slam dunked it, and then opposite in other parts.
We'll get to that in a moment. We want to first hear from the winner in Commission District 3. This is one that the Democrats did flip, and it was early in the night that we heard from Mr. Huckabee. Let's hear from him again.
To me, it shows that momentum is important. So this district came down to 87 votes. Gina Oster, while she was our commissioner and did a wonderful job, she barely won that seat. Democrats have shown that if you pick up the pieces and keep going forward, the momentum really matters.
Again, he finished first over Sherry Super, Brandon Huckabee winning Commission District 3. John?
If you look at the precinct by precinct breakdown, Brandon Huckabee won all of the precincts in that district except for one. That was Ball Camp Elementary. And in that race, the split was 52-48.
And that was the Gina Oster's district
Yes,
prior to, who was chairman of County Commission. And there was not a lot of love lost between Gina Oster and Sherry Super, I think. So I don't know if you had some Republicans voting for Brandon Huckabee, or they stayed home, or what. But that was an unusual margin.
The privacy of the booth in a general election often surprises everybody. And I'm not surprised by this, because to hint on what Susan said, Gina Oster was pretty well liked across the board, even by those of us that are more moderate and progressive. And she got beat by someone that was not moderate and progressive, and it cost her. And
plus, the other thing, Sherry Super wouldn't do interviews.
That's right.
Didn't do a very good job
campaigning. Didn't come here, wouldn't be on Inside Tennessee, wouldn't even do a private interview with you all. And that doesn't sell real well, although it didn't hurt Marcia.
Republicans did do well in at-large seats 10 and 11. Let's listen to one of the winners now. You can see Justin Kofer finishing first in that race. And then also we saw in 11, Garrett Holt finish first.
Going into day one, the biggest thing I want to learn from the current commission, find out as much knowledge as they can give me. That way, when we do this transfer, it's as smooth as possible, because they've been in this for 4 to 8 years, so I'm going to need to learn from them.
The things that are on a lot of people's mind is its growth, its infrastructure, and just kind of keeping Knox County and the Knox County people know and love. And I think for me, as someone who's grown up here, my big prerogative is making sure I can fulfill that for people, to make sure that the things that make this place special, we keep it that way.
Big picture, the commissioners held both 10 and 11 seats. John North, let's move to school board, and this is District 4. Kat Bike was hoping to retain her seat. She was the Democrat, and she did over Ashley Sartell.
Turned out she really didn't have too much to worry about. Her race 4 years ago was a lot tighter than this one. So she's entrenched, and clearly voters are happy with the 4 years she spent.
if you want to sign whether or not that district has gone Democrat, that was a good Republican candidate, and I think Susan would say that.
Yep.
Moderate, very much in line, frankly, with a lot of Kat Bike's moderate positions. And for Kat Bike to win by 6 points in that district tells me that that district is significantly more blue than it has been over the last 10 years.
I don't think there's any question about that. When you look at Sequoia and some of those areas, it's gone definitely blue, and the city has spread just outside the limits.
Blue Creek.
Yeah.
Here you go. And this is what John was referencing in School Board District 9. Brandy Jenkins, 52-48 over Bill Sofield. It's important context here, John, that Christie was the board chair. She's the Republican, and they managed to primary her and bounced her from the race. And it actually shocked a lot of people on school board who felt like she worked really well. No matter your politics, she just got things done.
Christie, well respected. This race is kind of similar to District 3, which we talked about in terms of the primary. And what was fascinating in looking at the precinct breakdown in this one is Jenkins and Sofield split the precincts 5-5. She did just bonkers in some, South Knoxville Community Center, Dogwood Elementary, South Knoxville Optimist. Sofield did very, very well in places like South Doyle Gap Creek, but not enough to overcome what she got.
This is what I've said. Yeah, this is what I've said about South Knoxville. It is kind of hipped up is what I'll say. I mean, it's gotten younger, nicer homes, people building out there, people moving out there. I know people of generation between 30 and 60 are really looking at places to settle there, and it's changed the demographic, and that's what's happening.
Condos and apartments are all along the river.
Keep going.
And they keep going. It's amazing what's happened in South Knoxville.
Welcome to the new Hardin Valley.
We're going to take another quick break on Inside Tennessee. Back with more of our takeaways from this election, including what happened for state representatives and in the state Senate. A couple incumbents holding on to their seats. We're back with more right after this. Back on Inside Tennessee, our election analysis moves now to the state level, and we're going to talk about the legislature. It's a GOP-controlled legislature, supermajority, walkout majority. Don Bosch loves that one.
Thank you, John.
Let's look at the Tennessee State Senate District 7. Richard Briggs is the incumbent and won handily over a candidate that challenged him before and lost as well. Any takeaways from this? The last time it was about the same split.
It was. The guy that ran, Kent Morrell, that ran against him was on the state executive committee and certainly more to the right than Dr. Briggs. I don't think anybody's surprised. Dr. Briggs has been a fit for that Senate district really well, and I wasn't surprised at all by the margins.
He is a pragmatist for certain. Let's move quickly to the Representative Davis race, because she was trying to hold on to her seat, and she did. And this was a three-way race. Candidate Brent Jones, longtime prosecutor, JAG officer, he presented a challenge for her, and we thought it might be tighter than it ended up, Don.
Surprised that it was this far apart. Elaine has a brand, is strong, whether you like her or don't like her. She's well known. She's been there. She's been in a few offices over her career. I thought Brent Jones would do better. He's a very good federal prosecutor. Not surprised that Elliot Shundhart did not do well. He has a little history in his past that would not help him.
Susan, we only have about 30 seconds, but just overall at the state level, give us your takeaway from the election.
I talked to the speaker after the election. There were only two primary House members that lost. John Crawford up in Kingsport, and then Dennis Powers, who's been in the legislature a long time, just from west of us here, and he lost to a primary opponent. But other than that, every other sitting House member won their primary.
They get primaried to the right?
To the right, yeah.
It's that day. It's still, we are still a bit Trumpian if the rest of the country may not be as Trumpian.
John, any notes before we take a break?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. It was an interesting night. I am surprised about Powers.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break and come back and talk about turnout and some other takeaways as we move on to November right after this. Back on Inside Tennessee, let's talk turnout. 3 in every 10 voters who could vote did in Knox County, and you can see how that lines up throughout the years there. 33% turnout. Those are the total numbers, but John, you did talk to Chris Davis, the administrator of elections, about this. What is his take on that 33%?
He said he'd be a happy boy if he got somewhere between 85 and 90, and so he is happy today.
And quickly, did turnout on Election Day still it was beaten by early voting.
It was.
again.
Yeah, early voting exceeded it, and you raise a great point. I think it just we keep nudging a little bit more and a little bit more.
I would think that would make Chris pretty happy because it means it's not this chaotic
well,
on
you
election
just throw like one lever, and suddenly at 8:45, you've got 54,000 votes out there.
Yeah, it's really telling now. You used to wonder, hey, is this really what's going to happen? And Susan,
I think it's really convenient for voters. You know, and if you're like me, you think, well, I may not live till election day. I'm going to go vote early, you know.
You're good till they drive that wooden stake through your heart, Susan. You'll be just fine.
I just think people have gotten so used to it, and you don't have to go to your own voting precinct. Like I voted downtown West, but you probably voted downtown.
And Denzi, and I walk in the city county building 3 times a week, so it's pretty easy for me to vote.
But we have some diehards who go, by golly, I'm voting on election day. You're one of them, right?
I get heckled in my precinct, so I try to go to the city county building.
Let's go quickly to the Farragut mayor's race, and you can see Alex Kane won this by a smidge. John North, when you looked at it on election night, it was tied at one point, and then the difference was 9 votes.
Yeah, it got very, very exciting through the course of the evening, and then suddenly at the last minute when we got final results, it's like, oh, Kane wins by 65.
Another one I want to talk about is Union County, because this is a race that we were watching closely in terms of what's been going on in the sheriff's race there, John.
Very, very interesting. A lot of fine folks in Union County, and my goodness, the politics there are fascinating. But yeah, Rick Carter, he got his vote margin was 102 votes. So
I commend some of our brethren in the out counties that run as independents all the way through. They do that for economic reasons. They don't have to pay for 2 races. But I like that. I think all judiciary races, the sheriff's race could be included. It'd be great if they could all be independent or nonpartisan.
In the 2 minutes we have left, let's look big picture at Knox County again. Don Bosch, the Democrats actually were able to flip the school board in their favor.
5-4 Democrats to Republicans. The Republicans sort of rued this day, I suppose. They're the ones that wanted partisan elections and school board. Well, they now see what they get. All that said, school board should be likewise nonpartisan. It's not. But it's 5-4 now, and that's a good day. It shows that Democrats are making a significant comeback in Knox County. We flipped a county commission seat. We flipped a school board seat. Bo Hawk ran a historic election, although he lost. And you might be seeing the next city mayor candidate in Bo Hawk in just a couple of years.
Susan, as Don mentioned, county commission is still firmly in the hands of Republicans, but it's now 8-3, and you have been warning about some signs that concern you as a Republican.
Yeah, well, the Democrats are engaged, to say the least. They are going to be very passionate about turning out in November because the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate is in their minds in play. So I think you're going to see
the governor's mansion.
Yeah, you're going to see a huge turnout in November. I think one interesting thing about the county elections, we had so many of our county office holders who didn't even have an opponent. Nick McBride had won what, 67%, 50, a big number there. But most of them were unopposed.
Sherry Witt just runs.
Yeah, she had the largest vote of the night.
She did, and she claims, maybe I might have heard from her today that earlier this week, that probably thanks to some of my Democratic friends that still threw the lever for me. But there was no one running. Our party does need to do a better job in filling up some of those ballot seats. We used to have none of these. Now we've got 2/3.
For Don, Susan, and John, we so appreciate you tuning in this morning, and thank you for watching our election coverage as well. We look forward to seeing you right back here next Sunday morning for Inside Tennessee. Until then, have a great rest of your weekend.